Hello, and welcome back to the Calm and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Janine Halloran, and today I wanted to talk again about deep breathing. So, I've done a couple of podcasts about some deep breathing activities for kids, and I've written some resources that have helped people figure out some different ways that they could take deep breaths. When I go out and do some speaking, I always like to ask people what are some different strategies that you use when you're taking deep breaths. And whenever I hear of a new one, I always add it to this place on my website. It's called Deep Breathing Exercises for Kids. So if you go to copingskillsforkids.com and you reach up, if you click on resources, it'll come up and it'll say deep breathing resources for kids. So I always am adding new materials to that whenever I hear about a new strategy. And today I wanted to talk about some strategies using props. So before we've talked about using your hand or using shapes to take deep breaths. And today I want to talk specifically about some things that you can use that will assist kids in taking deep breaths. So I have 3 different props that I like to use with kids. And the first one is just a stuffed animal. So what you would do is you would have a child lay down on the ground and put their stuffed animal on their belly. And when they take a deep breath in, the stuffed animal is supposed to move up. And when they let that breath out, the animal is supposed to move down. This helps kids make sure that they are taking a breath from their belly as opposed to a breath from their chest. So the deep belly breaths are the things that are going to help kids get out of fight, flight, or freeze and get back down to rest and digest. So using a stuffed animal helps kids tap into that belly breathing. That's really important. The other thing is that it doesn't have to be a stuffed animal. So I've done this with little kids who really are super into Spider-Man or Thor. And so we just use the figure that they really like, and they put the figure on their belly and they move the figure up and down. So whatever floats the kids' boat, whatever makes them happy, whatever is they're super into, like if they're super into Paw Patrol, try that. The second strategy I like to use is a Hoberman sphere. So these are available on Amazon, and I actually have them in 3 different sizes. So I have small, medium, and big. And I like using the Hoberman sphere because what it does is it gives a visual for kids to help them understand that when they take a breath in, they're supposed to expand their belly. Then they let the breath out and they contract their belly. So again, helping them focus on the belly breathing as opposed to chest breathing, to make sure that they're getting those really deep breaths. But it's an actual visual that helps them expand, so they can physically expand the Hoberman sphere and contract the Hoberman sphere. So I have a video that is available on YouTube that where you can see the Hoberman sphere in action, which I think is pretty cool. I like that a lot. So feel free to check that out. I'll link to that in the show notes. And I used to actually have kids. I used to have this one particular child who was super tiny and skinny, and he would actually get physically inside of my big Hoberman sphere and breathe in and breathe out inside the sphere. It's really cool. So I love using it, and they're available in all sorts of sizes on Amazon. And the last item I've used with kids is a feather. So what you could do is you could just go to a store like Michael's or the Dollar Tree and get a bunch of feathers. And you can keep them in a basket on your desk, and you can have kids pick out their favorite feather or relaxing color of a feather and use the feather to help them take a deep breath. So there's a couple ways you can use the feather. You can have kids breathe in looking at one side of the feather and breathe out looking at the other side, even just using that to tracing the feather with their finger. So they trace one side and breathe in and trace the other side and breathe out. So just a visual and a tracing activity that helps kids take a deep breath using a feather. Or you could have them move the feather as they're breathing. So they're just breathing in and breathing out and moving the feather back and forth as they take their deep breaths. So there's a couple of ideas for strategies you can use to take a deep breath using a feather. And I'd love to hear from you. What are your ideas? What are your strategies for taking a deep breath using props? I'd love to be able to add to my list on my website, so feel free to let me know about that. Email me at calm@janinehalloran.com. If you like this podcast, please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues and rate us and review us wherever you listen to this podcast. And one last thing, please take a few moments, take care of yourself, and have a little fun. Have an awesome day.